Okay, so today we're gonna go over Second Maccabees. We're gonna start at Second Maccabees 6 and 12, and we're gonna go into 7. And today is about these people suffering, not just these people, but all of the people, right? Like from Isaiah to Jeremiah to all of these prophets who are suffering and going against, all the way up to these people we're reading about, and even the disciples, and even Christ, right? So we're gonna go through all of that to talk about what about them, because right now we have this notion in our mind that it doesn't matter what we do anymore. Like, we don't have to follow the rules. But what about the people who did and suffered because of it and are going to be rewarded? So do you think that we're worthy to receive the same rewards if we don't do the same sufferings? All right, so we're going to go into the story. We're going to start at 6 and 12. It says, "Now I beseech those that read this book that they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishments not to be for destruction, but for a chastising of our nation." Right? So he's saying, "I beseech thee that read this book, that they be not discouraged for these calamities, but that they judge those punishment not to be for destruction." So don't take the things that God doing against you or the nation as destruction of the people, but as chastisement, right? But as a correction for us to do better. Now this is 2 Maccabees 6 and 13. "For it is a token of his great goodness when the wicked doers are not suffered any long time." So he's saying for the people who do the most wicked, they're not suffering for a long time here on earth yet, right? So let's keep going. But forthwith punished. So it's saying that they're not going to have to suffer here, but they're going to get punished after they leave here. You understand? And it says, "For not as with other nations whom the Lord patiently forbeareth to punish, till they be come to the fullness of their sins, so dealeth he with us." So it says, "For not as with other nations whom the Lord patiently forbeareth to punish," meaning he's waiting patiently to punish them. It says, "till they come to the fullness of their sins." And that's when Christ said that until the fullness of the Gentiles come in, right? Until their full lodge of sin comes in, and then Christ comes back to judge them until the end of the Gentiles, right? Their reign leads into Christ's kingdom because of their sins. It mounts up to the point of their judgment, just like the old world was judged by the flood because God allowed their sins to mount up and then he wiped them out. It's the same thing. They're saying that their punishment is not going to come to the end, but yeah, we're going to have to suffer now because of what we believe. This is all about faith, right? And it says, it says, "The Lord patiently forbeareth to punish till they be come to the fullness of their sins. So dealeth with he with us, lest that being come to the height of sin, afterward he should take vengeance of us." So he's saying that our judgments is good. Like the whoopings we get now is to keep us on that straight line. Otherwise, he would allow us to sin into the end, and then we would receive a great judgment, which will happen in part to Israel as well. And it says, "Lest the thing being come to the height of sin, afterward he should take vengeance of us," like I was saying. "And therefore he never withdraw his mercy from us." So that's the whoopings. The whoopings is the mercy. He always constantly under correction. He constantly pushing us to do the right thing. It says, "And therefore he never withdraw his mercy from us, and though he punish with adversary." So although he allow these people to punish us, right? "Yet doeth he never forsake his people." So he allowing them to do all the wickedness that we see, but he never forsook us. Never. Because the kingdom is first for us. To the Jews first, then to the Gentiles. That's what he says. The Jews are not the people. We got to go over this again. Let's go over it again. They're not the people in Israel. God said that when I bring you home, there will be no violence on the whole earth. The lion will lie down with the lamb. The little kid stick his hands in the cockatrice den, and no harm will come on my holy mountain. We did not go home in 1948, or else there would not be death, destruction, war, famine, disease, and plagues going on right now. That's false. All right? So I had to hit that. It says, but let this that we have spoken be a warning unto us. So what is this all? What is these whoopings? A warning. They're warnings for us. And now we will come to the declaring of the matter in a few words. It says, Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man, and of well-favored countenance. So he was beautiful. He was an aged man that was handsome. Was constrained to open his mouth. So he was constrained, and they forced his mouth to be open. To eat swine's flesh. That's how deep God's commandments are. They would rather die than eat this. They were tortured in front of the king. So you got to understand, when you turn on the TV and every other commercial is pork, crawfish, shrimp, lobster, and you're like, oh, that looks amazing. These are the same things that these people would have died for, because they believed in God that much, right? And it says, so they're forcing this man to eat this. But he gushing rather to die gloriously than to live strained with such an abomination, spit it forth. So rather than to die, I would rather you kill me than to do this against God. He spit it out. He spit it out of his mouth. And it came into his own accord to the torment. So then after that, he knew, like, oh, now that I did this and did not partake in what they're trying to force me to do, I'm done. I'm done. So he came into his own into the torment. He chose torment over just eating this small thing, right? As we would say. And it behoved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such things that are not lawful, to love, for the love of life is to be tested, right? So it behooves us, it makes people who believe in God, stand forth on God's truths rather than the love of life, because life is a test to see if you deserve to live. This is just the beginning. And it says, and it says, but they that had the charge of that wicked feast, and this was a feast, this was a holiday to them, one of their holy days that they were making us do this on, right? And it says, for the old acquaintance that they had with the man taking him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, such as was unlawful for him to use, and to make as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king, that in doing so he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them and find favor. So they're like, look, if you eat this food, we could be cool. We'll be friends. You find favor in our sight. Everything is good. Just abandon your God. And it says, but he began to consider discreetly. And as he became his age, in the excellence of his ancient years, in the honor of his gray head, whereunto he was come, in his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law made and given by God. So that was his education, was God's law. So now he done studied the law so much, he older in age. So all of this is coming on to part. He's understanding why God put the law in place and why these people want him to break it. And it says, Therefore he answered accordingly, and willed them straight ways to send him to the grave. Said, kill me. Kill me. I'm not going to do it. Kill me. I understand what y'all want. Kill me. That's what he said. And for it becometh not our age, he said, in any wise to dissemble, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 10, were now gone to a strange religion. And so through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little time, in a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get strained to my old age and make it abominable. For though for the present time I should be delivered from this punishment of man, yet I should not escape the hand of the Almighty, neither alive nor dead. So what he's saying is, I'm not going to do this and be an example for my people to be an abomination and to continue this feast further on. And even if I did do this and lived a little bit of time, I can't escape God after for doing it. So there's no way I can escape God. So I'm not going to do it. Once again, take me to the grave, kill me. That's what he's saying. He says, wherefore now manly, changing this life, I will show myself such as one, as mine age requireth, and leave a notable example to such as be young to die willingly and courageously for the honorable in the holy laws. And when he had said these words, immediately he went to the torment, and they led him, changing the good will that they bare him a little before into hatred, because they foresaid speeches proceeded as they thought from a desperate mind. But when he was ready to die with stripes, he groaned and said, it is manifested unto the Lord that have holy knowledge, that whereas I might have been delivered from death, I now endure sore pains in body by being beaten. But in soul I am well content to suffer these things, because I fear him. He feared God, not the man who was beaten him. And thus this man died, leaving his death for an example of a notable courage, a memorial of virtue, not only unto young men, but unto all his nation, to not go against God. Let's go into the second part. Now we're going into 2 Maccabees 7. It says, then it came to pass also that 7 brethren with their mother were taken, and compelled by the king against the law to taste swine's flesh, and were tormented with scourges and whips. But one of them spake first, said thus, what wouldest thou ask or learn of us? We are all ready to die, rather than to transgress the laws of our fathers. Then the king, being enraged, commanded pans and cordons be made hot. Forthwith being heated, he commanded to cut out the tongue of him that spake first, and to cut off the uttermost parts of his body, the rest of his brethren and his mother looking on. Now when he was thus maimed in all his members, they commanded him, yet being alive, to be brought to the fire, and to be fried in the pan. And as the vapor of the pan was for good space dispersed, they exhorted one another with their mother to die manfully, saying thus. So they cut this man's tongue off, was chopping his pieces of body off and burning it in front of him to get him to eat the food. And then once they saw this not working, they took him in front of the pan and burned him while he was still alive, in Maine. Now think about, why would they go through so much to get you to not follow God? The devil does not want you to follow God at all. His commandments are not hard, but he would rather you say, well, God wouldn't care about this, so you get punished with him afterwards, because he's going to punish me. Okay, so, and it says, so all the brothers and everybody with the mom is bigging each other up. We're going to take this. The same way he did, the same way he died, we're going to do it because we're doing it for God. Thus the Lord God looked upon us. It says, the Lord God looked upon us, and the truth has comfort in us. And Moses in his song, which witnessed, their faces declared, saying, and he shall be comforted in his servant. So God was comforted seeing how much faith they had in him on the moment of death. God was comforted by them lifting each other up and manly encouraging each other, even the mother, to watch her son die for not eating pork. That's how important God was to them. Think about how important God is to us in comparison. It says, so when the first was dead, after this manner they brought the second to make him a mocking stock. And when they had put off his skin and head with the hair. So what is that? What is that? Didn't they say the Indians did that? This is before they came over here. So who started scalping people first? The Gentiles did. The Indian, if you look it up in history, the Indians did it as a retaliation against the people who came over there and did it to them first. Do it to me, I'm gonna do it to you. Right? So this is what they started. And this was to do what? To make him a mocking stock, to laugh at him for not eating it. Oh, this is such a small thing. Oh, his God can't save him. His God obviously not powerful if it can't save him from getting his scalp cut off and from getting burned in the pan. So they're making fun of him for following God. And it says they put off the skin of his head with the hair. And they asked him, wilt thou eat before thy be punished throughout every member of thy body? But he answered in his own language and said, no. Wherefore he also received the next torment in order as the former did. So they cut him up and put him in pans while he was alive as well. And when he was at the last gasp, so he's at his last gasp, he still got his tongue, remember. He said, thou, like a fury, takest us out of this present life. But the King of the world that shall rise up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. I'm going to read that again so you can catch this. He's talking about Christ. Not talking, he didn't say God, he says the King of the world, right? He says, thou like a fury takest us out of this present life, but the King of the world shall rise us up. So he's talking about Christ, shall rise them up. They believed in Christ. That's what people got to understand. So when you say, oh, well, Christ died, they understood what Christ died for, and they were willing to die for the same thing. Put that into perspective. It says, the King of the world shall rise us up, who have died for his laws. So what did he die for? So what did they die for? His laws. Christ's laws. You understand? Shall raise us up, who have died for his laws unto everlasting life. And after him was the third made a mocking stock. And when he was required, he put out his tongue. And that right soon, and he put out his tongue. And that soon, holding forth his hands manfully, and said courageously, these I have had from heaven. And for his laws I despise them. And from him I hope to receive them again. So he put out his hand and his tongue. He's like, these I got from heaven. I can't tell you how I got all of this stuff. God gave it to me. And for him, I despise him. He could take it away. I'll give it away for him. And he said courageously, these I have from heaven. And for his laws I despise them. And from him I hope to receive them again. So I'll give him away because I know he's going to give it back. And it says, insomuch that the king And they that were with him marveled at the young man's courage. So even the pagan king who was having a festival and killing them because they don't want to partake in a heathenistic festival is marveled at this man's courage and his faith towards their God. For that he nothing regarded his pain. So even while they was chopping him and doing this, he make a sound. He make a sound. It says, now when this man was dead, also they tormented and mangled the fourth in like manner. So when he was ready to die, he said thus, it is good being put to death by man, to look for hope from God, to be raised up again by him. As for those that shall have no resurrection to life, as for thee, thou shalt have no resurrection to life. So what is he talking about when he says the dead will be raised first? These are the dead. How many of us can be put in a category with these people? Because if not, we won't make it or rise. And that's point blank period. These are the people that deserve it. It didn't come to die so we could do whatever we want to because, oh, it's so hard. He came so we would live by him and die to the things of the world. You understand? So it says,
hold on.